Okay, so the start of this part 2 video on basic Excel, if this is the one you're watching at the moment, is starting with functions. So we're going to look at some of the named functions: sum, average, count, count A, count blank, round, and if. All the starting basic blocks that you need to start using functions, and then move on and explore into further areas. I hope you enjoy them.
See that we're starting to use functions. So functions could be a sum, you added something up, average, the average in a range, minimum, which would be the least important, the less of the range, or the smallest. It could be lots of language. Max could be the most popular, could be the largest, could be the biggest. So they'll use them in different ways. And then we've got a round. Okay, so let's have a look at these ones. If you drop this down up here on the ribbon, you can see a sum, an average, count, numbers, max, min, and then you've got more functions. So these are the quick ones, the automatic ones that you can use. So if I was going to use a sum in here, if I clicked in there and I did an automatic drop down on a sum, it would automatically assume I was adding these figures up because there are no figures on the other ones. However, I may be adding these up. So notice that when I use my cursor to highlight the areas, it's going from G6, colon in between, everything else in between, to G9. Here, going from C10, see how it's going across, everything in between, and ending at F10. If you bring the function range into where you've got your answer, you'll get an error. So when I've included G10, it won't work because G10 is actually where I'm having my answer. So if I do that, I get what they call a circular reference. So I need to make sure that when I do my sum, if I wanted to edit it, I could go into the formula bar there and edit it and tick, tick, or use enter, and it would add it up. Okay. If I could use the sum for a large area and I just want particular cells. So what I could use is I could use a sum and then I could just use that cell and separate with a comma. So by separating with a comma, it will only pick up those cells. Whereas before, when we use the colon, it's everything in between as well. So that's the difference. So that's how it's built. You can type these in as well. So if I delete that, I could type in equal, SUM. It comes up, double click on it, and then you get your open bracket ready, pick up your range and close bracket, enter. And this is pretty much the same for all of them. So let's have a look at these at the bottom now. Let's bring it up for you so you can see. So let's do our sum again. We can type it in. You want to get used to doing that. There's our sum, double click, pick up the range and close bracket, enter. In here I do an equal average, there it is, pick up the range, close bracket, enter. If I was in here and I wasn't sure what I was going to use, I could go to the FX and I'm looking for the biggest. So if I'm looking for the biggest, let's see if that will come up if I go. Rephrase, it's not happy with that, so if I put the largest, will that help? So large, it's come up with sums. You've got large returns the largest values data set. Max does not ignore logical value. Maximum returns the largest value in a set of values. So that's the one that I could use, isn't it? I wasn't sure. Remember, they're always there. It's the same format again as the others. Double click on the max, pick up the numbers, close the brackets. If it is something like an array, still do it without enter. If you make an error, you want to go back in or you want to change the data, you can just go in and edit it. Anytime you can open these up. This one here, once again, equal min, double click, pick them up, close bracket. Nice and simple, keep it simple. And all of them are there as well. So if I went in there and I deleted that, I could go in here, pick up the min, and it's automatically even picked up the data, enter, and it's done. So if that's the way you want to do it, that's absolutely fine in the test, enter. Okay. When it comes to round, if we look at this figure here, we've got 2 decimal places, so 36.23. If we use a round with one rounding to one number, then it drops the 3 and we get 36.2, 1 decimal place. If we have no decimal places, you can see the 0 up there, so the 0, that means we drop the 2 and the 3. If we had a figure 36.9, and I put in a round, let's do it together, so equal round, start to type it in, double click, click on the cell I'm going to use. You can follow the format here, comma, and I'm going to do it by, let's do by 1, or 2, no, let's do it by 2, close bracket, and enter. I've got the same. Let's change that now to 1, and it will stay the same again, but then if we change it to 0, it goes up to 37 because the 9 is quite high, isn't it? This is a 2 and a 3, below 5, that's above 5, so it will round it that way. Okay, if we were going to do this in the paste function, you weren't sure how to do it, you could type in, you could do the round, bring it up, then you could bring the fx function, the insert paste function, and you could put the details in here. So if I was going to do it to E24, I could actually type E24 in there, and the question asks me to round it by no decimal places, so I click that in there. So that's the thing we're doing it to, and that's the decimal places. Now it tells you here what they are, the number you want to round and how many digits. Okay, and then it does the job there. So there's lots of ways to do these things. Another area we can look at is count. Count is a good feature. So it counts the number of cells with numbers in them. This is what a count does. So if we equal count, double click. We can use the fx if we want to. It's pretty straightforward, because all we're going to do is we're going to just pick up that range and then OK, and we've got 5 cells with something in it. If we do this one, double click and pick it up there and put the bracket on ourselves, see the difference, and enter it, we've got 1. But then if I go on and do some other people present, it automatically takes it on board. If I put some text in though, it doesn't. In order to pick up text and data, I would need to use a count A. So count A, it counts cells with both text and data in them. So if we close the bracket on that and enter, there's 6. If we take out the data, 5, sorry, the character or the letters, and then it'll still work. Okay, so be really aware of that. In the exam, when you ask to do this, it's usually an area with a bit of data and some text in it. And what happens is when people use a count, they expect to see a count A, they expect to see more data with a count A because it'll pick both up. But if you use a count and they only want you to pick up the cells with data in, which is correct, if you use the count, you expect to see more coming up because it's quite full and you're thinking, well, there's a lot of data there, it's got to be higher than that, 2 cells or something. So make sure you use the count A if it's mixed, and you just use the count if it's that. There is a count blank as well. Put in count blank, and guess what? Count blank will count the cells that don't have anything in them. Oops, probably took it into my actual, see how I took it into my actual answer area. Didn't like it, and you get what called, I showed you earlier, a circular reference. You can see how that changed. So that's count. Let's continue with some function practice for the next tab along. And we're going to apply some of this. So we've got use the appropriate function, not like we did before, cell referencing, which is a formula. We use a function to add up the cells in N2. So click in N2, we can use the equals sum because we're adding up. Double click, pick up that range which is all the way along to n, don't include n, to close the bracket, enter, and that one's done. And then it wants us to do the net profit here. So in N14, we could actually do it this way this time. We could click on the auto sum and look how easily it does it. Enter, and that one's done. And if you open them up, that's what they've done. And you can always see them in the formula bar as well. If we move on then to, let's bring it up a little bit. We're going into B16 and we're going to work out the lowest figure from the data range B2 to M2. So we're going to equal, we're going to have a min, double click on it. Then we need to find B2 to M2. So B2 to M2. Okay, so we're finding the lowest figure, close it off, enter it in, and that's our lowest figure. Find our max. We could do it this way this time if we wanted to, max. And in here, we're actually going to put a data in, and we're going to do it to, let's just make sure it's the same. It is the same range, B2 to M2, and enter. Let's do the average a slightly different way. So for B18, we're going to work out the average tax of the range B2 to M2. So this time we're going to type in average, double click, we're going to bring up the FX. I'm going to find this way of doing it. So in here, we need the range B2 to M2. Exactly the same. Okay. And there we've got the average. Okay, moving on to the in D27. So we've got here. And as you can see, I put a little hint there just to make you realise that find out the number attending in D20 to D26 won't recognise the text. So we have to use a count if, that's right, count A, sorry, count A, not count two. Drop the range in, close the bracket, and that way we can pick them all up, which is great. And then on this one, it says how many cells have data in the range E20 to E26. So in this one, really, we need to think about count only because we do not want to pick up the names, the text, characters, whatever you want to call it, depending on what you call it when you're in Excel. So always remember that in the exam, don't get caught out with it. Okay, so that's that area covered. Okay, so now on to the if function. So I've broken it down here for us. Just bring that up a little bit and over. Okay, so if H6 is greater than and equal to 69, so here's your H6 here, then give an outcome of pass or otherwise fail. So the if function is going to have a look, see if it meets a value. If it does, it will give one outcome that's true. If it doesn't meet that, then it will give an otherwise outcome, which is false. Now, so an if function is obvious when you see pass, fail, good, bad, excellent, poor. They're opposite outcomes. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. Let's break it down then. So let's put in equal if and double click on it or type it in, it's up to you. Let's go to the FX and use the insert function to help us. So we'll line it up with what we've got with regard to the test. If the question's there, you could do that. If you want to get to your data as well, have it on the slide slightly there, and you can hold it in the title area and move it as you wish. So the logical argument is this bit, or if the H6 is greater than and equal to 69. So we've got our if already. So then we need H6. We can type it in or we can click on H6. Is greater than. You need to use the chevrons. So you've got greater than and less than. You need to use these as operators. Use an equal sign following a chevron if it says and equal to. Then you can type the 69 in. That's your logical argument. Then the outcome, if true, is pass. It's capitalized, so I'll follow it. Notice the speech marks appear on it when I click away, because if you have text in a function, it always has to be wrapped in speech marks, and it's the speech mark above the number 2 one. If it's false, we want it to come back with fail. And if I click away from fail, it will also fix the speech marks for you. So if I OK that now, and it comes up, you can see how much more work's been done in that function, than when I was using the insert function. So it's put our open brackets in, our closing brackets, put the commas in, and it's put the speech marks in for me. If you know how to do them, you can type it in. Double click, so you've got H6 greater than equal to, and then you've got 69, comma, speech mark pass, speech mark, comma, speech mark fail, speech mark close bracket. And then when we've done it, whichever way we decide to do it, you've got the autofill in the corner. You can drag and drop, or you can go to the first one. If you double click on a autofill, it will fill to the next blank cell. Okay, if you change some of these figures then to 12, oops, my number lock's not on, let's make sure it's on. And you can see that they automatically change as well. So that's a little bit of practice we can do. Let's move to the next one and let's have a go at this. I'll just bring it up a little bit. We'll do the first one and then the second one. So we're always doing the first instance, the first one, and then we autofill the rest. So in G2, work out which employees get a bonus this year. If the employee has had less than 2 days absence, then they get 15% bonus, otherwise they get nothing. Not very kind, but there you go. So let's have a go at it. So equal if, double click on your if, and go to your insert function if it makes life easier. You can drop it below your question if your question is across the top, and you can still see your data, so wherever it's safe. Your logical argument you need to break down, remember, with operators. So what it's asking is if the employer's had less than 2 days holiday, so that's the absence. If F2 is less than 2, not equal to, doesn't include 2. If that's the argument, then what they want you to do come back with is a 15% bonus, if not a 0. And you can put percentage in if you are asked to. It will still work. As you can see, you've got a result. Okay. And then if you double click down, you can see if you put those actually into percentages, then they'll come out like that. Okay, so that's worked. In H2, we're going to pop in an equal, it's an if again, double click, and we're going into our FX. So we're looking at a different argument here. So let's pop this up here. So our logical argument in H2, work out which employees are 50 or over. So it's about age. So the age is 50, greater than and equal to 50. So it is including 50. Then they can arrange for the pensions using meeting if that's true, or no meeting. Notice the speech marks coming in if it's false. So then when we autofill, double click, anybody that's under 50, not many, quite an old workforce there. If it doesn't work, look again at how it's broken down and what you should have and where, and make sure you meet.